The win over USC didn't just move the needle on the field, it might have changed the future of Notre Dame recruiting. Coming up, On 3, Steve Wiltfong joins me to break down which five-star targets are trending toward the Irish and why this recruiting weekend was a massive success for Marcus Freeman's program.
You are Locked On Irish, your daily podcast on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome in. This is Locked On Irish, your daily home for Notre Dame football. I'm your host, Tyler Wojciak. I'm a Notre Dame alum, producer at Fox Sports, and I've been covering the Irish for the past 5 seasons. I am thrilled to have you here with me on Wednesday, October 22nd, and thanks for starting your day right here by making this your first watch or listen of the day. This episode is presented by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And if you have not already, please be sure to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast so that way you don't miss any of our daily coverage of Notre Dame football. And we've got a very special guest on the show today, On 3's Vice President of Recruiting and Transfer Portal, Steve Wiltfong, who had every angle covered from Notre Dame's biggest recruiting weekend of the season. We break down his new prediction for 5-star running back Kemon Spell to commit to the Irish, how Notre Dame positioned itself with elite defensive prospects like the number 1 edge rusher in the class of 2027, and why he believes Notre Dame defensive backs coach Mike Mickens is the best recruiter in the country. Plus, Steve explains why Notre Dame's class of 2026 is right up there among the nation's elite, and why Marcus Freeman's recruiting machine just keeps on rolling. Enjoy. All right, I'm really excited to welcome in Steve Wiltfong, the Vice President of Recruiting and Transfer Portal for On 3. And Steve, we know that Notre Dame went all in on the USC weekend from a recruiting perspective, and you were in touch with a lot of these recruits during and after the trip. So from your perspective, what was the biggest headline for Notre Dame coming out of it?
Well, I think it starts with the number 1 running back in the country, Kemon Spell, and predicting him to ultimately end up with the Irish. Now, this is a recruitment that has a long way to go in places like Ohio State, Georgia, USC, and other prominent programs are going to look to change the trajectory of this recruitment. But I think that Notre Dame over the weekend set the tone for the former Penn State commit. Notre Dame has the number 3 ranked recruiting class in the country in 2026. And with the guys that they had on campus in 2027 this past weekend, they're going to make a run at another top 5 recruiting class.
I was a little bit surprised that you put in the crystal ball prediction just a few days removed from his decision to officially decommit from Penn State, and we still have 14 months to go before signing day, so this recruitment is obviously far from over. But what stood out most to Spell and his family about Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, and really everything that they pitched?
Well, I put in the picks so readers of Rivals and On 3 can go to the website and see where I think a recruitment currently stands. So that's what I think the current pulse of this recruitment is right now for Kemon Spell. But recruiting's fluid, and these other programs are going to get him on campus, and we'll see if Notre Dame can maintain its spot in pole position for Kemon Spell. But they have a lot of things going for it. First of all, the relationship with running backs coach Ja'Juan Seider, which dates back to his time at Penn State before coming to Notre Dame. How about the fact that Notre Dame has maybe the best backfield in the country? Jeremiah Love, the favorite for the Doak Walker Award, rushed for 226 yards and a touchdown. Notre Dame's other running back, Jadarian Price, had over 200 all-purpose yards, 86 rushing, a touchdown. He returned a kick 100 yards for a score, and he's had a 4-touchdown game this season. So Notre Dame with 2 running backs that have a chance to hear their name called early in the NFL draft, including Jeremiah Love, who has the talent and skill set to have his name called in the first round. So Notre Dame checks the on-field boxes, that environment, that stage to play college football in that kind of setting, similar to Penn State in their whiteout games. Very exciting for Kemon Spell. Then he's a very well-rounded kid, academically strong. Notre Dame checks all those boxes as well. Marcus Freeman's been involved in this recruitment for a long time. So I think Notre Dame has set the bar. That doesn't mean things won't change, but Notre Dame's going to be in this one. And the word that was used all weekend was trending regarding Notre Dame and Kemon Spell, and my Rivals prediction machine forecast reflects that.
Notre Dame also hosted another major running back and four-star Noah Roberts from Georgia. How serious is Notre Dame's push here? And is it realistic for Notre Dame to get Spell and Roberts and potentially Amir Brown all in the same class?
Well, I don't think they'll get all three, but I think Notre Dame would love to get Kemon Spell and Noah Roberts. And he had a great visit and told me that he looks forward to getting back to South Bend down the road. And we've seen high-profile running backs commit in the same class, and more than ever in college football. And then even in the NFL, we've seen systems where two backs can really flourish and eat and get their shine. And as far as from the college standpoint goes, it's less wear and tear on their bodies for their professional career. And Notre Dame obviously can point to the two-headed monster that they have in the backfield right now. And then Aeneas Williams is another talented guy that Notre Dame has in that running back room. So Notre Dame certainly showed both those guys that it's a great place to play college football. They're one of the front runners for both. Will they land both? I don't know. My prediction's on Kemon Spell for Notre Dame right now. I have not predicted Noah Roberts anywhere, but I will say that they're on his short list, and Notre Dame's got room for both of them.
Running back coach Ja'Juan Seider has made such a significant impact in a short time, and Notre Dame had a great running backs coach before him. I mean, Dylan McCullough is the man who landed Jeremiah Love. But what kind of difference has Seider made for Notre Dame's recruiting efforts, especially with top running backs like Spell and Brown?
Well, seamless transition when you're talking about Dylan McCullough, who was one of the tops in the game at developing and recruiting, to Coach Seider, whose reputation goes back decades now for how long he's been coaching college football and the impact he's had on young men throughout his entire career. And certainly we've seen him develop players. He's an ace recruiter. He really enjoys getting to know his kids, being ingrained in their lives, and that resonates in their play and resonates in the relationships he has with his players. And then that trickles down to the recruiting trail where he foundationally starts to build that relationship with these young men. It's authentic. He wants to know these guys. He wants to coach them. He wants to help build them up as men, certainly wants to help build them up as football players. And that's why he's had so much success in his career.
On the defensive side, the nation's #1 edge rusher, DJ Jacobs, was back on campus with his younger brother, Dawson, who actually got offered as well. How has Notre Dame positioned itself with two Georgia legacies in their family coming out of this weekend?
Well, they're one of the front runners, and Notre Dame's obviously on the short list for David DJ Jacobs. It's one of his favorite programs. They're right there in the conversation with Georgia, right there in the conversation with Texas A&M, Miami, Oregon. Those are some other programs that have really resonated and caught his eye. He's been to Notre Dame a couple times now, and they'll remain a factor in this recruitment moving forward. Notre Dame is a special place. It's a unique opportunity, and that's the type of setting that David could see himself playing in, playing his college football, being around like-minded individuals in that kind of small academic setting, playing on that major stage of college football, being developed by Marcus Freeman and that coaching staff, playing in the biggest games in college football week in and week out. Notre Dame is a realistic player for David DJ Jacobs as he and his family took their second visit up to campus.
If Notre Dame is able to land Jacobs, that would be huge because they have two really talented edge rushers committed in the class of 2026 in Rodney Dunham and Ebenezer Iwatade. How does Jacobs stack up with those two prospects in the class of 2026?
Well, Jacobs is a relentless football player that lives in the backfield. He is as high effort a guy as you'll find in the class. He is quick twitched. He is strong and powerful, and he's super smart. He can change direction around the line of scrimmage, and he's an absolute factor. And he's the type of guy that no matter who you have in your room, he is going to find his way on the football field and pushing that room, and the high tides raise the ship. And he's someone that'll bring a major tide to whatever program he chooses. Notre Dame is recruited at an elite level. This 2026 class that's ranked #3 nationally at defensive line, offensive line, in the secondary, it is as good as anybody in the country is recruited. It is the best D-line class, in my opinion, best O-line class. They're in that discussion. And then certainly the best secondary class, they're in that discussion. So Notre Dame stacking at positions where they've been dominant, but maybe landing an even more high-profile recruit in those position rooms, and we'll see how that shakes out when they get on campus.
You mentioned in your report that 2027 quarterback commit Teddy Gerard and his family already have a strong relationship with the Jacobs family. They're both from Georgia. We know that Notre Dame really tries to recruit families. I know every school does, but it seems like Notre Dame has had a lot of success doing that. I think the academics and everything around that really appeal to parents. But how important are those personal relationships between commits and top targets when Notre Dame tries to close on elite players?
Well, recruiting is a game of inches, and you never know how they're going to add up. So maybe that relationship with the Gerard family or closeness with someone else in the locker room helps give you an extra inch in a recruitment. But at the end of the day, you have to prove that you can develop players at the highest level so they can achieve their dreams individually, hearing their name called as early as possible in the NFL draft. Kids want to play in the biggest games in college football on the biggest stage. Notre Dame certainly checks that box. They played in the title game last year. They're in the mix to make the college football playoff again. They're one of the most watched teams in college football with one of the biggest followings. What they offer academically is sometimes important to recruits. Certainly, it's typically important to guys that would consider Notre Dame, and that checks a box here. And then you got to be able to pay. And I think that Notre Dame does a good job of compensating the players on their roster. We've certainly seen them go into the transfer portal and land high dollar quarterbacks in a couple cycles. And I think that the way that they've been able to recruit on the trail, they've had to be competitive in that arena in an NIL perspective. And I think with each year, you have to get better and better with that infrastructure. And so I think that Notre Dame is doing a good job on all fronts. And most importantly, the reason why Notre Dame is a team that's in the conversation right now to compete for another college football playoff is because they develop their guys. They get them into that program. They scheme them into the formations correctly. And the strength and conditioning is top notch. Nutrition is top notch. And Notre Dame puts together a game plan that allows them to compete at a high level. And that ultimately then resonates on the recruiting trail. But you have to be able to pay these blue chippers what they're worth. You're not going to get a Notre Dame discount very often. So you have to be competitive in the NIL space as well.
We're going to be right back with Steve in a moment to hear how Notre Dame put itself in pole position to land two very highly touted tight end prospects in the class of 2027. But before we get to that, here's a word from Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is also brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It is their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance in endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. You also mentioned that tight end recruiting looks very strong again with Jackson Dollar and Seneca Driver in town. It sounds like Notre Dame might be out in front for both, and they also have Ian Premer and Preston Frizzell committed in the class of 2026. That would be four extremely talented tight end prospects. So how do these guys compare to one another?
Yeah, that's another position group where Notre Dame's done an exceptional job recruiting in 2026 and really just historically under Mike Denbrock and that program. And I think right now Notre Dame's setting the tone in those recruitments, having conversations with them, talking to people that spent time with them during their visits and have knowledge of their recruitments, how they stack up. I mean, I think we think Premer's special at Rivals, but if you're picking a school like Notre Dame, you're betting on yourself. You know that they're going to recruit a great tight end in the class before you and in the tight end after you, if not multiple. You're picking Notre Dame because you feel like you are competitive enough to rise to the top. And when you rise to the top and you start at tight end for Notre Dame, a long NFL career is likely ahead of you.
Four-star offensive line legacy James Halter was also back in South Bend. You've logged a prediction for Notre Dame. But looking beyond the last name, what makes Halter such a fit for Marcus Freeman's program and what Joe Rudolph has in his offensive line?
Well, he goes to Pittsburgh Central Catholic. If there's not a high school that screams Notre Dame, future Notre Dame football player, I don't know what one does in this country. Beyond that, I mean, Notre Dame's track record of development on the offensive line, when you look at some of the guys in the NFL, the all-pros, guys that are trending towards the Hall of Fame, Notre Dame is second to none. And those are some of the biggest household offensive line names right now, from Zach Martin to Quentin Nelson, guys like that. The fit at Notre Dame, certainly Catholic school in high school, Catholic school in college, Joe Rudolph, again, the level that Notre Dame's playing at, getting around the guys on the football team, getting around the other recruits, seeing how like-minded everybody is. Notre Dame's obviously the one to beat there, and he's trending towards being the next one in the class, a class that ranks number 9 nationally right now by rivals, but certainly arrow up on pushing towards a second straight top 5 class, and we'll see what happens from there.
There was a lot of buzz about the North Carolina trio with safety Marquise Bryant, running back Amir Brown, and receiver Anthony Roberts. Look, they've all expressed interest in going to the same school as a package deal. I personally don't think I've ever seen that before. 3 guys coming from the same place going to the same school. Is that a realistic option here?
Yeah, Notre Dame leads for all 3 right now. Will they land all 3? Will they sign all 3? Some of that might depend on Notre Dame and who they're on the gas for. But just coming out of the weekend, Notre Dame leads for all 3 right now, and we'll see how each of them chooses to decide to continue through their process.
Notre Dame has really made North Carolina a priority in recent years. Why do you think that is? Is North Carolina high school football just taking off, or is it just because the recent success that Notre Dame has had recruiting players from that area?
I think Notre Dame recruits nationally. They cast a wide net coast to coast looking for guys that fit the Notre Dame profile. When that starts with being an excellent football player, do you have the length, the height, the speed, the size to play this game at a championship level? Then do you fit the culture of this football program? Do you believe in being challenged off the field as much as being challenged on the field? And I think in the state of North Carolina, over the last couple of recruiting classes, they found a lot of like-minded individuals that attend high schools where their families are just as excited about the challenges off the field or set you up for life as they are on the field. And that's why we've seen Notre Dame do such a good job in that state. But Notre Dame's a school that's going to go all over the country looking for players. The logo, the power, the prestige, the alumni network, you're going to be in all the conversations early on to recruit a high-level player. Then it's, are you winning, are you developing, and are you paying? And I think Notre Dame's doing a good job on all those fronts.
How does North Carolina high school football stack up among, the traditional powerhouse states that we're accustomed to, like a Texas, like a California, like a Florida, like Ohio? Because I think that if you're really focusing on it, you've noticed that, hey, there's a lot of really good talent coming out of North Carolina. But if you're not really focusing on it every day, this might be a little bit of a surprise.
Well, I don't have the NFL draft data in front of me as far as like where North Carolina ranks amongst other states, the traditional ones of Texas, Florida, California, and then certainly Alabama and Louisiana have been on the rise with draft picks as of late. But I do think there's really good high school coaching in the state of North Carolina. And the Carolinas in general have been really well known for producing D linemen for whatever reason. But there's really good high school football in that state, really good coaching. And from proximity standpoint to just the way those high schools are, the infrastructure of those high schools, it's a place where the Notre Dames of the world can go in and be very competitive if they feel the players are championship caliber.
Notre Dame had a couple blue chip defensive backs in town like Ace Alston and DeVay Williams, and they also had pretty much their entire class of 2026, at least for the defensive backs, in town as well. Mike Mickens has been rolling, obviously, on the recruiting trail and on the field. He has Leonard Moore out there dominating every single Saturday, and it just seems like more talented defensive back prospects want to come to Notre Dame. And as someone who's been following the team forever, that was not a strength of the team growing up. As a matter of fact, it was usually a glaring weakness. So what is it about Mike Mickens, his pitch, that makes him such an effective recruiter?
Well, I named him the top recruiter in the country after the 2025 class, put pen to paper, and he's showing why again here in 2026 with the likes of Joey O'Brien, Kerry Adams, and Aiden Pouncey. in the fold. They have a standard at the position. They have some of the best players in the country, All-Americans, high draft picks. Mike Mickens checks all the boxes. I mean, he was a good player himself that pours into these kids on the recruiting trail, earns their trust. He's able to point towards the development standpoint, how Notre Dame puts these guys in position to be successful schematically. And then, look, I mean, just again, Notre Dame helps you recruit itself already. But Mike Mickens is one of the elite assistant coaches in college football. It doesn't hurt that he is good friends with the head coach. But Mike Mickens is someone that I think is not as household a name as he should be because of the way he gets his players ready to play and the way he recruits. There's not many in the sport with the combination of recruiting prowess and coaching prowess that Mike Mickens boasts, and Notre Dame is very fortunate to have him on the payroll right now.
From everything you gathered, was there one prospect whose visit moved the needle the most? Maybe someone who didn't have Notre Dame that high on their board going in, but then they came to South Bend, they watched Notre Dame beat USC, and now all of a sudden Notre Dame is a major player.
Well, I think Notre Dame was selective on who visited this weekend. You already had to have them high on the list to even get inside the stadium. But two guys to really highlight here. How about the number 4 edge rusher in the country, Chris Whitehead Jr.? Been a lot of buzz about Ohio State and Tennessee in his recruitment, but Notre Dame was a program that was always intrigued by, had this visit on the calendar for a long time, came out, spent time in the locker room after the game. I talked to him and his dad. Notre Dame blew him away. Notre Dame is going to be in that recruitment till the end for Chris Whitehead Jr. And then the number 1 ranked defensive lineman in the 2028 class is Marcus Freeman. He's from California. He's already got many prominent programs invested in his recruitment. And I think it's Notre Dame leading right now. He's been to campus a couple times. He feels at home. Each time he comes to campus, he says he doesn't want to leave. And Notre Dame is the one to beat right now for him. Places like Oregon and USC are going to try and change that. But Notre Dame, just how diverse their locker room is, I think that all these players, when they come and visit, they feel comfortable around the players on the football team, and the coaching staff has created an environment and a culture where these players can be themselves. Again, they scheme them up well, they develop them well, they feed them well, they pay them well, and they play in big games. And that's why Notre Dame is in the conversation for a second straight college football playoff.
Steve is going to be right back here with us in a second to break down how Notre Dame recruiting could benefit from all the coaching turnover going on in college football. But before we get to that, I wanted to tell you about a great promotion courtesy of Game Time. College football is back, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It is the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time in just a couple taps. I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. Just pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Once Elijah Golden committed to Notre Dame back in the summer, it felt like he was going to be the last commitment for Notre Dame in the class of 2026. It looked like they were done there. But now, with all the coaching turnover that's going on across college football, and we've already seen it at Penn State, a lot of guys decommitting both in the class of 2026 and in future classes as well. And we expect more turnover coming here soon. Do you think that's going to force Notre Dame to reevaluate their class of 2026? Like, now are they open to taking more guys, considering that there's going to be a lot more decommitments coming here soon?
Well, I think Notre Dame feels great about their class. Is there always room for a creme de la creme stud difference maker? I think every program would say yes. Now, was Notre Dame a finalist for a prospect at one of those schools where they circle back on? Time will tell. I haven't heard any discussion there, but I think they're very excited about the guys they have in the fold. And if there was ever another elite player that presented itself at any point in the cycle, if you got the room in the money, go get them.
I'm with you. And I think it's really interesting how Notre Dame has kind of shifted their timeline up. Like the fact that they had their class of 2026 basically fully done with in the summer, and then they get to focus all of their attention on the class of 2027. What stands out to you about how Notre Dame manages multiple recruiting cycles at once and maintains that momentum?
I think Notre Dame's a unique place where their top targets know if it's for them or not. So it's just easier for them to get those guys in the fold, because when they're stacking Notre Dame up against other schools, there's a lot of differences between Notre Dame and a lot of the football factories out there that are exciting to these prospects. So Notre Dame filling up their class doesn't surprise me at all. It's just same as every program. Recruiting is about who you get, who you don't get, and making sure you landed the right guys that can come in and develop in your program and keep your culture and your environment humming. So time will tell on these guys holistically. But in the meantime, they're very talented. They seem like great kids that have a lot of intangibles. They recruited at a high level at the positions that are most important to win at the highest level, D-line, in the secondary, and on the offensive front. I think Notre Dame's still trying to find some elite players at the wide receiver position as they try and win the last game of the year. They're in the conversation of like they can make the last game of the year, but it's so hard to win that final game. I think you would love to see Notre Dame have some guys in the receiver room that can change and light up the scoreboard the same way guys in the running back room can. So that's a place where they went out and landed a bunch more receivers in this cycle, hoping that those guys are some of the answers. Maybe you find someone in the portal after the season that is an ultimate game changer at wide receiver. And I think you look at the quarterback and you're like, well, we got a guy that's going to be pretty damn good for at least one more season, and then you go from there.
We've talked a lot about Marcus Freeman's recruiting ability ever since he took over as the head coach. From what you have seen, how has his message evolved over his 4 years as the head coach, and what do players and families respond to the most?
Well, the great thing with Marcus Freeman is that he embraced everything about Notre Dame when he was an assistant coach before he was even a head coach. And some people will say that the school is limited because of X, Y, and Z. And he would turn around and say, well, we are elevated because of those same X, Y's, and Z's. You know, the caliber of kid that we can recruit, their mental makeup, what they're made of internally. Those are guys that we would rather have in our program. Yes, Notre Dame will challenge you off the field, but why would you want anything less in your experience as a young man in your formative years? Yes, you may have to live with a normal student, but that normal student might end up ultimately running Amazon. So Notre Dame's what were perceived as weaknesses by maybe other coaches at Notre Dame and people outside the building, Marcus Freeman, from the moment he was a coach on staff, embraced them all as positives. And when you look at it through that lens and you're communicating and being eloquent in your message with recruits and families, it's going to hit home. And instead of, oh, yeah, you got to room with Tyler here who doesn't play sports, and you'll be away from your buddies on the football team, but we play on NBC. Well, Marcus Freeman would say, well, you got a room with Tyler here who's going to run the terrific Notre Dame podcast down the road, and maybe you'll be an investor in it. And then also you play on NBC, you know. So I think Marcus Freeman just is all about Notre Dame for all the right reasons. And him being the head football coach at Notre Dame appealed to him because of those reasons, and not just because it's being the head football coach at Notre Dame.
Yeah, and I'd also like to throw in that I was a pretty good roommate when I was back in college, kept the place clean and tidy. But the last question I have for you, Steve, Notre Dame fans have been asking it for years. When you look at Notre Dame right now, where do you think they stand among the true recruiting power players?
Well, they can go toe-to-toe with anyone on the trail. Now, are they the biggest spender in college football on the recruiting trail? No, but I think they've shown they can put together a class and a roster that can compete at a championship level. And so you have to be excited about that. They're one of 10 programs, 10 to 12 programs where you say they have a legit chance to win the national championship in the current landscape. Now, their margin for error might be a little smaller than a couple of those other programs, maybe based on where they are geographically, maybe where they are in the spending ranks. but Notre Dame is in all the right conversations right now to win it all. And it's just about putting it all together for one football team and going out there and doing something that's historically special, but obviously incredibly hard to do.
Steve, this has been great. Really appreciate you taking the time. Make sure you are following Steve's work over at On3, and for all the latest on Notre Dame and national recruiting, his coverage from the weekend in South Bend is outstanding, and you can find all of it at on3.com. Thanks again, Steve.
Yeah, no, appreciate you having me on. We'll do it again.
That's a wrap for this episode. Thanks again for making Locked On Irish your first watch or listen of the day. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, please be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the like button, follow the podcast, and as always, leave a 5-star rating and review. And don't forget to send in your questions for Friday's mailbag. I want to hear from you. Going into the bye week, I'm going to be right back here tomorrow morning with another friend of the program, Jamie Uyeyama from Irish Sports Daily, for a little mid-season check-in. Going to be a lot of fun. I'll see you then.